Beneath the silent statues of Easter Island, one ancient sound has been waiting centuries to be heard. Welcome to the Purely Fiction Society. I'm Knowles, your host, and tonight we travel to the remote volcanic Easter Island in Chile, where the famous Moai have stood watch for centuries. When a scientist follows a mysterious signal beneath the ancient stone quarry, he uncovers a hidden chamber containing an artifact unlike anything ever discovered before. This is Echoes of the Stone Giants. The stone cliffs of Easter Island, local name Rapa Nui, stood unyielding against the relentless surge of the Pacific Ocean. Benjamin Pollack stood on the jagged rim of the Rano Raraku volcanic crater, checking the harness of his ground-penetrating radar. At 35 years old, Benjamin possessed the sharp focus and physical drive of a rising star in the scientific community. His thick black hair was cut short, his sharp green eyes were narrowed against the salt-laden wind, surrounded by early lines etched by seasons of squinting at sun-bleached horizons. Behind him, the massive stone statues, known as the Moai, stared blankly across the grassy hills, completely silent. To the average traveler, these monoliths were mysteries of a long-dead culture. To a geoarchaeologist like Benjamin, they were clues to how an ancient society interacted with a volatile volcanic landscape. For the past 3 days, his seismic instruments had picked up strange acoustic abnormalities vibrating deep beneath the island. The reading showed a steady rhythmic pulse that hummed consistently through the underground lava tubes. It was not the chaotic shifting of magma or tectonic plates. It was a precise, standing sound wave that seemed to originate from an uncharted cavern directly below the ancient stone quarry. Following the acoustic signals away from the main tourist trails, Benjamin pushed through a dense thicket of wild guava trees. He discovered a hidden cleft in the rock, completely obscured by tangled ferns and dry brush. It was a narrow vertical crack that descended straight into the dark foundations of the island. After lowering a microphone into the opening, he slipped on his headphones and listened. A deep undulating drone filled his ears, sounding like a vast crowd humming in unison through miles of solid stone. The resonance was peaking at this exact location, confirming the existence of a sealed underground chamber. Benjamin attached a heavy rope to a nearby outcrop, pulled on his leather gloves, and adjusted his headlamp. Slipping backwards into the narrow crack in the rock, he began his slow descent into the unknown. The journey downward was tight and treacherous, the jagged walls of cooled lava catching at his gear. The air grew rapidly warm and heavy, thick with the scent of damp earth and ancient minerals. After a 20-meter drop, the narrow shaft abruptly opened into an immense volcanic chamber. The ceiling formed a perfect dome of smooth black stone that reflected the beam of his headlamp like a dark mirror. The floor was covered in a layer of volcanic ash, untouched by the air currents for hundreds of years. Walking towards the outskirts of the room, Benjamin observed that the walls had been meticulously shaped by human hands. Thousands of intricate spirals were carved directly into the hard stone, expanding and contracting in continuous waves around the entire chamber. The ancient builders clearly understood acoustics, engineering the shape of the room to act as a natural amplifier for sound waves. In the exact center of the cavern sat a single stone platform. Resting on top of it was a ceremonial horn, roughly 2 feet long, carved entirely from a single piece of flawless black stone. The craftsmanship was stunning, featuring detailed reliefs of seabirds, stylized figures wrapped around the body. The mouthpiece was inlaid with delicate fragments of iridescent shell and bleached bone. Benjamin approached the platform with immense care, pulling on clean medical gloves before lifting the heavy artifact. The stone felt dense and cold, vibrating faintly in his palms as it funneled the narrow, low-frequency hum of the island. This unique instrument was designed to project a pure, undistorted frequency against the stone walls, creating a powerful feedback loop. Unable to resist his scientific curiosity, Benjamin held the horn to his lips and exhaled a single cautious breath. A clear, resonant note erupted from the instrument, vibrating deep within Benjamin's bones. A sound wave struck the smooth walls and rebounded, multiplying in volume until the air grew thick with pressure. As the initial note began to die out, the nature of the echo transformed completely. The sound returning from the darkness was no longer the note of the horn. It became the rhythmic metallic tapping of stone tools hitting rock. Benjamin spun around, his headlamp sweeping the empty cavern as the sounds of bustling ancient quarry filled the room. He heard the distinct scraping of chisels, the heavy thuds of mallets, and the low grunts of men performing back-breaking labor. The echoes grew louder, overlapping each other, and the sound of stone cutting gave way to hundreds of voices lifted in a rhythmic ancient chant. Benjamin stood frozen as the audio grew incredibly clear, capturing the groaning of thick ropes under tension, the cracking of wooden sleds, and the shouts of supervisors directing lines of workers. The acoustic energy of the ancient environment had somehow been recorded and preserved within the volcanic stone itself, and the horn had acted as the key to release it. Suddenly the chanting gave way to panic, shouting, and the roar of a violent storm. The intense vibration began to destabilize the chamber, causing small flakes of stone to rain down from the ceiling. Realizing the danger of a structural collapse, Benjamin quickly placed the horn back onto the platform. The moment the instrument touched the base, the sound cut out instantly, returning the chamber to a heavy silence. Hours later, Benjamin sat outside his research tent near the coast, watching the sun sink below the horizon in shades of deep amber. The padded aluminum transport case remained empty beside Benjamin's equipment. He had brought it with him, expecting to recover samples and transport small pieces of evidence back to the university for further study. Never in his career had he imagined that the greatest discovery he would ever make would be something he would choose not to take with him. His satellite phone resting on the camp table began to ring. The screen displayed an incoming call from his university colleagues on the mainland. They had reviewed his initial coordinates and examined the first details from his research logs. They wanted more information. Already plans were being discussed for an international expedition involving scientists, engineers, and documentary teams. Benjamin looked back towards the hidden entrance of the chamber. He knew exactly what would happen if the discovery became public. The Horn of Time, Benjamin's name for it, would be removed from Easter Island and placed under the protection of a museum. Researchers would examine its materials, study its construction, and attempt to understand the impossible acoustic phenomenon that had preserved the voices of the past. But the chamber itself would never remain the same. To allow large teams access, the fragile volcanic passageways would need to be reinforced. Equipment would be brought underground. the natural balance between rock formations and the chamber's unique acoustics would be altered. The very conditions that had allowed the ancient echoes to survive would disappear. The horn was not simply an ancient instrument. It was part of a living connection between the volcanic landscape and the people who had once stood inside that hidden place. Benjamin thought about the sounds he had heard: tools striking stone and the voices of workers, songs carried through the darkness and the laughter of children who had lived centuries before. These were not just archaeological evidence. They were fragments of human lives that had somehow remained preserved beneath the island. He understood the importance of sharing history with the world, but he also understood that not every discovery needed to become an exhibit behind glass. Some things were valuable because they remained untouched, so he carefully closed his equipment, leaving the Horn of Time exactly where he had found it. That night, beneath the stars above Easter Island, he returned alone to the hidden volcanic passage. He moved slowly through the darkness until he reached the chamber one final time. For a moment he stood quietly beside the ancient horn, knowing that this would be the last time he ever saw it, and then slowly he turned away. Using fallen pieces of volcanic stone and natural minerals from the surrounding area, Benjamin carefully concealed the entrance once more. He covered the opening, restored the ground above it, and scattered vegetation across the surface until the landscape looked untouched and the chamber disappeared back into the island. The next morning, Benjamin left Easter Island with only his research notes and the memory of what he had discovered. His final report stated that the seismic readings had been caused by unstable underground formations, and that further exploration of the area would not be possible. He knew some would question his findings, and he knew his decision might cost him recognition, but for the first time in years, he felt certain that he had done exactly what a true scientist should do. He had protected the truth. As the aircraft rose above the Pacific Ocean, Benjamin looked through the window towards the distant coastline. The silent Maui stood beneath the morning light, continuing their endless watch over the island. Somewhere deep beneath the volcanic earth, the Horn of Time remained exactly where it had always belonged, carrying the echoes of a people whose voice has never truly disappeared. And that is the story of Echo of the Stone Giants, a journey into an ancient mountain fortress where some secrets were never meant to be found. What would you have done? Would you have told the world or left the mountain to keep its secrets? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed tonight's story, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so that you never miss another standalone adventure from the Purely Fiction Society. Until next time, keep searching the shadows and don't stop believing. Good night.